Alright, let's see what we can do here. I'm going to throw a couple of these down for reference. I really like the style that I've accomplished here, and I kind of want to keep doing that. I'm going to use this here as kind of a blocking in shape, more so than what we were doing before. I'm going to do this on the low. And I want to just put a couple of edges into this. I don't want to sand. We've already done all this sanding to take it down to a comfortable hold. Now I just want to put in some sandstone detail at this point. So. So now I've blocked in a little bit of shape, so I'm going to come back in with my sandpaper. Curl it up again, because I really don't want to add ridges into this. I'm going to curl it up to match kind of what the diameter of that tool bit was. I'm just going to sand down those features a bit, smooth them out. Alright, I'm pretty happy with those. Those are some nice basic grips. I can feel pretty good about on the wall. I'll put a screw through right about there and there on each one. This one's a little more critical because if I go too far, I'll do it here. So I will dump it right there. Countersink it a little bit with this tool here, and we'll cast these.
All right, so you see I've got the cast here already. I recorded it originally, and it just turned out to be 10 minutes of me hot gluing things and holding it there with my hands until it cooled. So we went and cut that out of there. I do want to go over what we got going on here, though, before we get too far ahead of ourselves. So this is probably the most important process that we got going on. If everything goes well, then we can pump out part after part after part after part, and everything will be fine if we do this part here correctly. So this mold's got to be perfect as much as possible. You can see that I've drilled and tapped the holes here, or not tapped, drilled and countersunk the holes here. They're just slightly smaller than a washer, so that washer will seal down inside of that plastic or resin, like so. Hopefully cleaner than this here did, and secure that washer in there permanently. That'll distribute the weight out through this hole and give it a lot more lifespan. So that's fairly important. In fact, if you don't have a washer, some kind of metal surface for these socket screws to roll against, when you tighten them to the wall, you're going to break this pretty easily. This isn't made to take that kind of pressure, whereas that washer will distribute it out nice and evenly and make it considerably more reliable. So people are putting their weight on these things. I don't know that it's life-threatening, but there's definitely been a lot of people that have broken limbs in a gym for other reasons. Lead climbing probably the best example of somebody being injured because a hold broke or something like that. Top roping, probably okay, but even bouldering, maybe. I don't know. I could see bouldering going badly too if a hold broke on you. So that's been the back of my mind when I'm making these holds. So I got both of them countersunk. You can kind of see them in there. Let me pull these up and out, backing out there. Okay, so a couple things about this process here. I've just got this nice flexible cookie sheet thing. It's plastic, baking. I don't know. It's not, obviously it doesn't go in an oven, but it's some kind of cooking aisle object. But it's a nice flexible plastic sheet, so that when I'm done with all this process, I can kind of bend it and snap off this the hot glue and go again. Use this sheet again with protect whatever surface I'm working on. I hot glued all my holds down there because one of the major problems I had with my other holds is that I was just doing Elmer's white glue, and even though I let it sit for long enough, it float up to the surface. It'd break loose, and that glue wouldn't hold it there or whatever, and it'd come up to the surface and float on top of the mold, and that ruins the mold. The mold's the most expensive part. All right, it's $30 for this pound that I've got. This is a Luminolite High Strength 3. So just this mold here, this is about a pound and a third. A little over a pound. And this is $40, right? Whereas this same resin, I can pump out a dozen holds this size for $30. So this is the most expensive part of it, and this is the most time-consuming part of it. If you don't get this right, everything else is going to be messed up for the duration of this hold, or you're just going to have to resculpt it and try again, which I've done. So there's a couple of different versions out there. There's this High Strength 3 from Luminolite. And then there's this quick set. The quick set's a lot stiffer, just not a whole lot of flex to it. And I've already got a lot of cracks that have happened down. You see this peg is broken here. There's already a lot of cracks that have happened down trying to flex the parts out of this. Whereas this High Strength 3, man, I can pop those right out, no problem at all. I'm not concerned about that at all. Again, this is the most expensive part. So like you can see how shallow this hold is right here. That means there's probably 2 or 3 square inches of silicone there that are just wasted down in this corner. If you can mitigate that kind of thing, do it. So you can see on here where I've kind of cornered in and stayed close to my parts as much as possible, trying to minimize the silicone I'm going to use, because I'd like to use more of this on another bigger hold. This is just a little small one. So you can see the 2 holds that we sculpted in there. This little blue one from earlier, that's that yellow mold I just showed you that broke. So I got one good hold out of it. Now I'm trying to recast it so I have it for the future. These are all just footholds or small crimps. They're all about the same height, so I don't have one super tall one and 5-6 square inches of silicone sitting on top of the short ones. That's inefficient. Again, this is the most expensive part. There are some other products out there. I haven't used them. There's another one, Smooth On or something, that's out there. This is what's been local to me. It's what's been affordable for me. It's worked okay. Hobby Lobby has them. You can get 40% off with a daily coupon. If Hobby Lobby's around you, that's the way to go. So we're cast. We're ready to go. Like I said, I had the plastic sheet to cast it to, glue gun, some cardboard that I actually used from the previous box to create the retaining wall, and then we're going to go ahead and mix the silicone. So I've got a flexible plastic measuring device, tube cup, whatever you want to call it. I prefer to use the metric side of it because it's easier to do the math in. This is a 10-to-1 ratio to mix it, and then I got a stir stick for kicks and giggles. I'm going to go ahead and throw on some rubber gloves. These chemicals aren't particularly hazardous. There are some cautions. Obviously, you don't want children to swallow it, things like that. The resin is considerably more of a concern for me. There are people out there that cast these holds that have had to quit casting holds because of the fumes or the things that are affecting them. So that is something to be aware of. Yes. So this I'm not too worried about. I'm going to go ahead and throw gloves on. It's the resin that I would recommend casting like outside if you can, or in a ventilated area. And when you sand on it, we'll talk about resin when we get there, but resin's what's going to mess you up if anything does. So be careful, be aware of that. So we're going to pour this in here. I'm really hoping I don't have to use the whole thing. So we're going to try it. I'm just going to dump some of it in here. You see it's this nice thick stuff. We're gonna start with, I don't know, I'm gonna eyeball it. Maybe we'll just have to go ahead and use the whole thing. I think we're gonna have to. There's less of it in there than I thought there was. We'll just use the whole thing. Let's set up. Are these flexible measuring cups? The silicone's not too bad. Once the silicone dries, you can peel it out of there really easy. But for the resin, that hardens considerably. It doesn't like to stick to the smooth surfaces as much, so you can usually flex it and snap it out of there pretty easily. Whereas the first one I got was a glass one, and that was a one-use only. I just had this permanent, inch of resin in the bottom of it that I never got out. This is pretty thick stuff. I hope I have enough. The plus side, this stuff bonds to itself really nicely. So even if I don't have enough, I can mix another group in and it'll be okay. So we're right at about 200, as you can see on the mixer, right at about 200 milliliters. So I'm going to pull out my catalyst and eyeball about 20. So just pretty close right there. Go a little bit more. Just below half on the 250 mark. Should be good. And mix away. Get rid of some of that off my hands. And this you want to mix this so you got a nice pinkish hue with no streaks. So I'm gonna move this over to the camera. That looks pretty decent. It's all fairly uniform. Go ahead and pour it out. Alright, so we're trying to avoid air bubbles if at all possible. So I'm going to pour this out. I'm going to start filling up the low areas here. And what I would like it to do is I would like it to fill those holes, the bolt holes, and pretty naturally. I'd like it to flow into them. You see that blue one there? I'm letting it just kind of flow in from the side. If I just poured it in right over the top, I can trap air down in there, and then there's a chance that that post won't completely form, which would be bad. So I'm just trying to let it flow in there from the side, let all that air escape, and I hopefully have enough for this mold. It's going to be tight, but I might have gotten away with it. Keep an eye on your retaining wall as you're going. My hot glue gun is still plugged in. It's still got heat to it, so that I can plug any holes that I see. It looks like we're going to get away with this. This looks like about the perfect amount, which I'm excited about. This stuff's expensive. £5 of it's like $100 online. I'm telling you, just go to Hobby Lobby, use that 40% off daily coupon, pick it up for $20. It's the way to do it. I've been kind of stockpiling it over the last couple of weeks, getting ready for some big holds. I run my Hobby Lobby out of stock on this stuff. I think I've done that every week for the last like 6 weeks. Just climbing supplies. I'm going to let that set up. And come back to it. It wants about 12 hours to set, so I'm probably done with this for the day. Once I get this poured. And I'll let it set up. And we'll pour some resin in it. Probably late tonight or sometime tomorrow. So I don't have anything leaking out. I've plugged everything pretty well. I can go over there. That's thrown away now. Put my gloves off. Pretty happy with that. It's a little shallow down on this tallest hole over here, but I'm not. It's not bad. I think this high strength is tough enough to deal with it. There's something to be said for, tap your table a bit and see if the air bubbles will come up. But this particular substance is pretty good about flushing the air bubbles out. So I'm not super worried about it on this stuff. It doesn't set nearly that quickly, and air will rise. And I don't have any trap down in there because of the way I poured it. So I'm going to let that set up that way. And then, yeah, you can see air bubbles pop on it right now. We'll let it set up. And I think this shallow spot, I can just barely see the green, but this is some tough stuff. I think it'll be okay. I would like to have another, maybe even 1/8 of an inch, but I think I'm going to poke it. Yeah, oh yeah, that's probably fine. Yeah, another 1/8 of an inch would have been nice, but I'm not too worried about it. That should be okay. So this is pretty tough stuff. The quick set, this would be a problem. The quick set, I would go ahead and make some more and add it in there, because that'd crack and tear the first time around. This will probably hang in there pretty well. So we'll have to clear out the foam. We'll have to tear it out of there and clean out the inside of the silicone mold, flush it out, and then we'll pour some water in there so we know how much resin to exactly to pour in there, and that should be in the next step. So, alrighty. All right, this mold's done. I let it sit overnight. We're gonna go ahead and pop this thing off of here and see what she does. So we'll just rip the enclosure off here. That should pop right out. See, the foam's already kind of coming out of there. Peel the glue off this thing because we're going to need it here in a minute. See, I glue popped right off. See if I can knock off. This might take a little bit more here. Yeah, I can get this off pretty easy, but I'll take a minute. I'll probably do that off camera. But yeah, just hot glue. It's coming up like that, comes up pretty easy right there. Yeah. Okay. So we'll come back to that in a second here. So you can see on here, I've got a little bit of silicone that leaked underneath the edge, all the way around. So we're going to cut that. I've got my Leatherman, or these are my Gerbers here. Just the knife functions really all I'm after here. And I'm gonna find the edge of that, just cut. It doesn't need to be a perfect edge. I don't recommend, when we fill up this casting, we're not going to bring it up to the very top. We'll let it sit like an 1/8 of an inch underneath the top of the mold, and we'll leave it there. The resin will expand when it casts, so. I'll do this one because it's probably the easiest first. Alright, pop this nonsense out. So just kind of separate it, pull it from the edges as much as you can first. Yeah, see, that's alright. Alright, get it all worked out a bit. Slowly let that post release from inside there. Boom. That's what we're looking for right there. And then the silicone can come off. And that's the last time we'll have to deal with that. Oh, that's super glue there. That's what most of that is. Alright, I'll clean that off at a later time. Super glue, hot glue. Alright, so we can see that it's our mold right there. Pretty happy with that. We'll go ahead and repeat the process for the foam. So I'm just going to cut around the edge here. Same thing over here. I'm excited. I'm excited to get these on my on the wall. Don't want to slip up and cut through your retaining wall here on this. That would be bad. I don't even know if you can repair these. I'm sure it'll take a little bit of glue, but as far as actually retaining the life or saving the life of the thing, that's a different matter entirely. See, that silicone's still a little bit soft right there. See that? Yeah, a little bit soft. I gotta cut that post there. That silicone dry. Now it's exposed to air up here. I will probably not cast from it quite yet. I'll probably let it sit for a little bit longer before I cast from that side. Although it'll probably be okay. I don't know. This is not nearly as critical on this side. I don't care. The foam is destroyed at this point. So you can crack it out of there. It is pretty thin down on that bottom. I can feel that pretty well. Yeah, that's pretty thin down there. Have to be careful. All right. That's probably okay. Same thing down here. All right. There's the mold. That's good. Toothbrush real quick to clean that out. All right. I got a brush. Try and get the bulk of this out. Some of it's just not going to come out until we get until we've cast it in it once. But if you can get most of it out, it'd be a better casting. Looks pretty okay. And this right here. Got that and that. You're not gonna be able to get everything out. Just do what you can. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Okay. So I need to run this. That's our mold. Looks pretty decent. I'm pretty happy with that. I'm gonna go run underneath some water. I'm gonna fill this mold full of water, then dump it in a measuring cup so I know what kind of volume we're looking at. And we'll come back to this. All right, we're back. It's about an 80 to 90 milliliter volume cast. So I washed it out. I did pretty well. So we're gonna go ahead and do some casting here. So let's talk about what we need. I've got the same platform. I've cleaned off the hot glue from it. Excuse this. I've got some flexible mixing cups. I like the flexible plastic ones, A, because they're super cheap, and B, you can pop the plastic. If you have any residual plastic in here, you can flex this and it'll pop right out, no problem. So that's really nice. I like to have 2 cups too because we're going to mix some dye in this plastic before we pour it. And I like to mix the dye in thoroughly on one of them before I pour them together. And it's nice to get the measurement correct on some of the bigger castings, so you can get it in 2 separate ones done before you pour it together. For one this small, though, it doesn't really matter. So, and then some washers. So I've got some little 3/8 inch washers that I'm going to slide over the post here. And again, these washers are really important because the bolt will eat up that resin facing. All right, it'll just destroy it. over time, and maybe like a week or two. Like however many times you want to cast that down. It's just there's no load bearing to resin really, no high pressure points durability. So this washer adds that in pretty simply, pretty cheaply. These are a dime a dozen, maybe even literally. So I'll throw those on the peg, and we'll go from there. And then I've got a Lumalite, a Lumares. It's this RC3 tan is what I found it underneath. See if I can get that to focus okay. I don't know if it'll let me or not. And it's same price as the silicone. It's about $30 at Hobby Lobby, or 18 with the 40% off coupon. Excuse me. It's a two-part. You mix them together, obviously, but it's two-part, 50-50. Sets up in a couple of minutes. Like you have maybe 2 minutes of working time to get it poured, get it in there, all that good stuff. So make sure everything is set up before you go. And then I've got this dye right here, this blue dye that you can see here. Here's a couple of drops. Here's where the cap fell off the bottle and everything went in there. And then here's what I cast out of the leftovers of that. This is kind of what I want to go with. That's the level I'm looking for, and it appears to be about a drop per 10 milliliters. So that's the measurement we're going to try. And I'm going to go ahead and pour my milliliters here. I'm going to pour, if we're going to 90, I'm going to pour to just below that 50 mark. I'm going to pour that with the thicker stuff. So we're ready to go. Wear gloves. The resin is considerably more concerning than the silicone was, in my opinion. I also know some professionals that have had to leave the industry because of what the chemicals were doing to their body. So I do encourage people to wear a respirator, although I may not be currently following my own command. See if this will drop. This will work. I've had some problems with these caps. They have made me mad. I almost need like a needle or something to stick down in them. This could all go horribly wrong too. Yeah, all right. So I'm going to take this nonsense off because it's making me mad. So one, that's probably 2 or 3 drops. We'll call it 3. 4, 5, 6. I'll clean this nozzle out next time. One more drop, and I think I'll call it good. All right. Those nozzles clog up really bad. I've had that problem before, even with this product line. So, yeah, it burned me before. All right, so we're going to mix the trusty mixing stick. Oh yeah, that's part of the ingredients, a mixing stick. Don't forget about that. Get that nice and thorough in there. Okay. And pour another 40, 45. And get right up to try and mix this pretty thoroughly. Don't have a lot of working time with this, so try and get it mixed pretty quickly. And then pour it in. Washers are in, all that's good. We're going to go into just below the top. So we'll expand a little bit. Not a lot, just a little bit. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. All right, I'll let that have at it. And see what we got. And it looks really boring at the moment. I'm sure it is. Talk a little bit about sanding though. So pouring, it's not the greatest. I'd be aware of it. As far as what you're breathing, generally I do this outside. It's for your guys' benefit that I'm pouring it inside at the moment. I've got ventilation going a little bit, but definitely encourage you to keep it ventilated as much as you can to the fumes moving. Oh, you can see it curing. This is already curing right here. You see it change of color in the back end, getting that brighter blue as it fills in the middle. Yeah, that's already curing. That's pretty quick. But sanding it is where the real issue is at, in my opinion. Sanding will get up in your lungs, and it's like microfibers. Or there's a name for it. It's not microfibers. Can't think on the top of my head, but it will mess your lungs up pretty quickly. Over time, for sure. I come from a miniature background. That's where I was casting originally. That's why I had casting supplies before I got into this. And resin's the highest quality out there. I really like resin miniatures, but so you start sanding on them, and you really need to be wearing a respirator before you sand on them. So if you're doing sanding on these on the backside, especially inside, get a respirator on or a dust mask or something. Keep that from getting into your lungs. You are going to want to sand the back of it because you can see right now it's a really smooth surface. So you got a little bit of bubbles there, but it's really a pretty smooth surface, and so it behooves you to sand that down, otherwise it's going to slide on the wall pretty easily. So my favorite thing to do is go out there and rough it off on the concrete. Actually, that's been the most abrasive, quickest thing I've found to work. I tried some sandpaper, and that's okay. It's all right. You run the risk with sandpaper of like a sanding block or anything of not getting it right, so you get an angle and you end up rounding off your device or your hold and making it worse than it was before. Whereas if you just lay it on the concrete back and forth, boom. So that's what I've done for all of my holds, and it seems to work out pretty well, as you can see right on the edges and whatnot. So that's what I do with these. So let these cure up, and we'll pull them out in a few minutes. It looks like it might be a little bit lighter than what I wanted, but not too horrible. We'll see. I might want to add a few more drops next time. I don't know. So we'll let that finish curing, and all right, here we go. We'll pull them out here in a minute. Been sitting for a few minutes. We're going to go ahead and pop these out of there and see what we got. So you'll notice they're pretty warm. Yeah, don't worry about it too much. It's fine. Just a chemical reaction. Sling them back a little bit. Separate that mold from the texture. The post, I think, is the most critical part. Let that separate, and we have climbing hold. Get this little guy out right here. Pretty happy with that color too. That's about what I was looking for. So a drop per 10 milliliters, it looks like. Thereabouts. This is the one that was so thin down on the bottom, so I want to take this one easy. So they'll separate pretty naturally. And pop out. And that is my hold, and I am really pleased with that. I overfilled it a little bit, looks like, right there. That foam just didn't seal down to the ground very well. But, or some Dumbo cut too close to the edge with his knife. I think that's probably actually what happened. I bet I cut off too much. But that's okay. Alright with that. It's a homemade hold, right? A little bit of foam left over. That looks pretty decent. So I will go sand out the back of those, just like that. But that's not going to really change anything. All it does is just add that texture to the back of it, so I'm not going to take the extra time to film that. You can see the washers down in there. Look good. Haven't really figured out a way to keep that from bleeding in over that washer. I suppose you could scrape it out if you really wanted to. Try and clean it up and give it that sparkle if you wanted. But I think it's going to happen pretty naturally with wear and tear. So I'm not too worried about it. I probably could actually just put my I could probably grind it with my drill bit, actually. That'd probably be the easiest way. Head with that actually my drill press. That wood bit, and clean off that center. That'd actually be kind of nice. Clean it up a little bit. But really, I'm happy with those holds. Those will go on the wall, and be a nice little crimp right there, and just a little edge. Just yeah, I'm really pleased with those. Match just like they did. So that's from concept to completion right there, guys. I'm really happy with that. Really happy with that. Yeah. So I'm getting a real party now. I got all kinds of them. Getting enough to have a little mound. So, well, I'm excited. That's excellent. So we're there. That's done. Those are the holds. Feel free to comment, ask any questions. I'm gonna keep coming out with these. I think I've got a massive hold that I've got casting right now that I did a sculpt for. The hold's about the size of this entire plate. We're gonna try and do some other things. We're gonna try and do some as our holds get bigger. We're gonna try and hollow them out in the backside. I've got plans for a big pinch. I got plans for a Waco or Hueco, however you pronounce those. So yeah, I'm really excited. That was great. So another set of casts to work with, and I can start pumping out lines here pretty quick. So yeah, I got 3 really good molds, and yeah, that looks great. Fantastic. Well, I hope this is a good instructional video. I hope this answers a lot of questions. I know when I got into it, there just wasn't a lot of answers out there for casting your own holds. I felt like there was you just kind of had to drag the information you needed from several different series of videos. And I know this one's a little bit long, but hopefully it's comprehensive. It's got everything, all the questions you could have, got the answers for. If you got more questions, feel free to comment below. Reach out to me or whatever, and I'll see. I'll be happy to help. I'm here to get people to climb. I want people to have the resources that they need to get into what they want to do. The more climbers we got out there, the better. So feel free to reach out, and yeah, I hope this has been helpful to you. Thanks, and you guys have a good climbing day out there. All right.